Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Houston Sharpshooters Draft to Glory here in NHL 22. So in last episode, we basically had set up our team to being to this point at the start of the season, but for some reason the game deleted my file, like completely, like all the backups and all that stuff. So I had to redraft our team and all that stuff and set it up again. Hopefully this file doesn't get deleted as well, because if it does, we might just have to wait till EA completely fixes the bug, because it might be a bug, and hopefully it's not a bug, because obviously we don't want it to be like that. But yeah, so basically our roster is a lot more different than you guys would have seen. Like maybe all the free agents that I signed would have been the same, but we did have to draft some new prospects in, and we didn't get first overall in that franchise, guys. So probably the game just realized, oh, you got the first overall pick, now I'm going to delete your file and you're never going to see it again. So we do have a bit of a different looking roster than you guys would have seen for our prospects, but at least we are still able to start up the series, and hopefully, like I said, this save file keeps up. Because if it doesn't and it randomly deletes itself, I will be a little bit pissed off, because it's kind of annoying when you have to restart a series technically to an extent. But anyways, let me show you guys what our roster looks like going into the year one season, just because obviously you guys haven't seen these players yet. So we end up getting the 5th overall pick instead of the 1st overall pick like you guys would have seen. So I picked up Kyler Morales, who is a medium elite two-way forward. He looks actually pretty damn good all around. Obviously, his puck skills are not that great, but other than that, he should be a pretty solid player, especially with that wrist shot and whatnot. And he is an X Factor with some pretty good X Factors, including Yoink, Beauty Backhand, Shutdown, Elite Edges, and Tape to Tape. So he should be a good passer, good defensive forward, even for a bad team. We also drafted Vladimir Goldobin, who is a right winger two-way forward as well, in the 3rd round. He should be pretty interesting. So we got a couple good defensive forwards, which should help our team in terms of playing defensively, but we still probably will have a lot of guys who are terribly bad in terms of plus minus. Second line wise, we have Cedric Holloway, who is also a draft pick of mine from the 7th round. He has bottom 6 potential, but he's not terrible, I would say. There's a chance he could develop into being like a 70-something at least, so somebody that could help out our team in terms of getting this team to being at least somewhat competitive. He might eventually be replaced and be like a depth forward for us, but hopefully we could win a Stanley Cup with him in the lineup. We also have Cole Sim, who we drafted in the 6th round, another bottom 6 forward. He is a power forward, which is kind of intriguing. He has okay shooting, so should be interesting to see how those two guys do on that second line. And then also in terms of prospects we drafted Nikolai Mikhanov, who is a medium top 6 defenseman. He was drafted in the 2nd round. He has okay passing, okay shot power, and his accuracy is not great. He is pretty physical, and yeah, he's an okay skater and stuff like that, so it should be interesting to see if he could develop into being a good defenseman for us. We also have Paul Christopoulos, who's a real player, who is a AHL top 2D. I got him in the 5th round. He's pretty much nothing, but we have to keep him in the lineup until we could get some more prospects in. And then we also drafted a goaltender, as we did in the episode you guys would have seen. So we drafted Sven Jonsson, who's a medium fringe starter. So not as high as an overall as the goalie we drafted in the episode you guys would have seen, but better potential. We got him in the 4th round, so hopefully he could play good in terms of goaltending for us. He probably will have a terrible season, though, because this team is going to be pretty bad. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, those are our prospects that we're going to be keeping an eye on out for this first season. And yeah, hopefully we get some good draft lottery results at the end of this first year, because we are going to be simulating the entire season in this episode. In the next episode, we'll get to the draft and re-sign stage and off-season stuff. And yeah, hopefully year number 2 is going to be better than this year, but like I said, it's probably going to take a while for this team to actually be competitive. Like, it might take like 15 seasons, maybe even less than that. I don't know, maybe more than that. But let's sim. We won't have any trade information popping up, so this should simulate pretty quick, I would assume. I'm just more interested to see how those young guys play. Hopefully our team could play pretty solid in terms of prospect development, at least. Like, if we could get some good growth, that will definitely help us out in terms of winning the Stanley Cup. And we do have injuries still, which I need to address. So I'm going to go replace player. That's in the AHL. Let me quickly just make sure injuries in the NHL are okay, because I could always turn off injuries, to be honest. Hmm. You know what? I'm gonna turn off the injuries. I know that's kind of unrealistic, but when you have like a draft glory and then you get injuries and stuff like that, it's gonna just add too much time to this, and we want to just get through seasons as fast as possible. So I will turn off injuries for the first. Well, maybe just in general, I'll turn off injuries because I don't think we really need them, to be honest. I should have probably turned those off at the beginning regardless. So that is good. And let's sim this first season, which I'm not expecting us to get too much. I would have went over the comments from last episode, but most of them were directed about getting our franchise player. But I do believe Hawks fan said though that he thinks that we would maybe get like 5 wins, 5 to 10 wins. So we'll see if we're actually able to get around that much. Bappert is back, but it doesn't really matter. I'll just go best lines down there in the minors because the AHL doesn't even have any prospects of ours. But yeah, I'm not expecting us to win too much. We have already allowed 11 goals in 2 of our games this season. We do beat Ottawa, which is a bit weird. Kind of didn't expect us to get a win this season. We do get 2 wins now. We beat San Jose. But we've allowed 11 goals in 3 of our games this season, which is pretty crazy. Like, how badly plus minus wise do you think some of these players are going to be? Like, I feel like we're going to have a guy that's like negative 80 something because I've seen some pretty outrageous numbers in terms of draft glories before. But it's always fun once you get actually the team to being good and whatnot. So, but hopefully we could win a Stanley Cup in the series at some point. It's probably just going to take a long time, but we are allowing tons of goals. A 10-0 loss, a 10-1 loss. That's like 4 games this season where we've allowed 10 or more goals. Like, at least we beat Ottawa and San Jose. There's another 10 game where I lost. We beat Seattle in overtime. Okay. We're beating some of the worser teams, but we do have 3 wins on the season and 2 extra frame losses. So we're actually winning more than I expected. We beat the Oilers. What the heck is that? Where was Connor McDavid in that game, huh? Jeez. I didn't expect us to get 4 wins in our first season, to be honest. It's kind of a surprise. Maybe it's because of the elite guy, but who knows. But to beat the Oilers, man, it's a big surprise. The other guys weren't as bad. So let's just go in, seller, and then we're just going to go continue simulating because we don't care about the trade deadline whatsoever in this series. Because we're never going to be making a trade in the series. Okay. So 4 wins. Can we hit 5 wins this season? That would be a nice way to start off the series. There's another game with more than 10 goals against. We do beat Seattle for the 2nd time this year, so we are going to have 5 wins in our first season, which is kind of nice. But hopefully we do get first overall this year, because if we don't, that would suck. There's another game with 10 or more goals against, and there's another game with 10 or more goals against. 14-0. I think that might be the worst score I've ever seen in a game via the sim engine. So we finished our first year here in Houston 575-2, which definitely has us in the bottom by quite a large margin, I would assume. Yeah, by 60 points. The next worst team was the Montreal Canadiens. Man. Okay, let's take a look at our player stats for this first year, just to see how those prospects did, and then we will sim to the draft lottery and the draft and take a look at that draft prospect, or the draft stuff and whatnot, so you guys can kind of see who we could go after for next episode, and you can guys give me some suggestions down below as well, because I'm open to suggestions, obviously. But let's take a look at the standings, just because I'm kind of curious on how bad our goals against and all that stuff was. So we are definitely the worst team in the league. Yep, by 60 points. My God, that's crazy. We scored 76 goals in 82 games, so less than a goal per game, 0.93. And in goals against wise, we allowed 5.59 goals per game. Yikes. It's going to be really nice when that is like reversed or something. It won't be reversed like that, but still. 9.6% on the power play. That's actually not as bad as I thought. It isn't the worst in the entire NHL as well. The Arizona Coyotes somehow had a worse power play than our team. And penalty kill percentage, we were the worst as well, 75.6%. We had no shorthanded goals. We never won on home ice yet this season, which is kind of surprising. 0-39-2. We won our 5 games all on the road, 5-36, and we're 0-10 in our last 10 games. Interesting. Let's take a look at those prospects to see if they got some good development as well. But let's see what we got here. So let's just take a look at our entire roster as a whole. The worst plus-minus guy on our team was a minus 142, and it was one of our prospects we drafted in Paul Christopoulos. Yikes. The best plus minus on our team, though, was Baranek, who's on the 4th line. He was only a minus 48, which is kind of a surprise. But then again, he wasn't getting much ice time. The lowest for the most amount of ice time was John Broda, who was a minus 86. But let's take a look at our prospects now, since the rest of these guys don't really matter. Kyler Morales has jumped up to a 74, so that's good to see him getting some development. Obviously, he's going to be a big piece of this team if we want to actually win a Stanley Cup in this series. But 32 points, he had 18 goals, which is really good, considering we only scored under 100 goals this season, or under 80 goals this season. So he scored the majority of our goals this year. And yeah, he also takes a decent amount of PIMs, it seems like. Not too bad. And then also Cedric Holloway, who we drafted, 16 points. He's only a 54. I don't know how much development he got. We'll have to check that afterwards when we take a look at the progress reports. But yeah, 16 points in 82 games. Interesting. Cole Sim, who we drafted as well, had 9 goals and 1 assist for 10 points. So it looks like mostly our draft guys are our point leaders. And then Goldobin had 22 points. He was a minus 132. So not too bad from our prospects. Goldobin has jumped up to a 59, I think. I think he was like lower overall than that to start the season. Could be wrong. And in our defensive prospects, Mikanov and Christopoulos, not too bad of seasons in terms of points. 14 points apiece, but obviously really bad plus-minus wise. And Mikanov is up to a 60 overall. Christopoulos still a 55. And then our goalie prospect, Sven Johansson, or not Johansson, Jonsson, got 3 of our 5 wins this season. He went 348-2 with an 890 save percentage and a 5.15 goals against average. So he did a lot better than the AI guy in Leon Dubarowa. Interesting, but we got some good development, I think, at least. Johansson's a 58. I don't remember what he was to start the year. But that is that. Let's take a look at our progress reports to see if those guys did get some development, which I think at least Morales did. And then we will sim up to the draft just to see where we are going to be drafting and all that sort of situation, and see what we could potentially get with our pick. Hopefully we get first overall, because then we could get Shane Wright added to this team. So in terms of our prospects, Kyler Morales has jumped up to a 74. As we were saying, 23 modified, all natural growth, which is also great to see. Sven Johansson, our goalie, did get some growth, 12 points modified. That's nice. Yeah, he's getting some good natural growth as well. Sim is up by 12 points as well. Holloway up by 10 points. And then Goldobin up by 8 points, but it looks like, yeah, up by 8 points, which is not really a whole lot, but at least he's getting some development. And then Mikanov, our defenseman, only up by 4 points, which is kind of concerning, because we need these guys to develop as fast as possible if we want them to, if we want this team to win a cup. And then Christopoulos also went up by 4 points. Does he actually have an X Factor? It says X Factor next to his name. Or is it just a glitch that says X Factor on all these guys? I think it is. Because it's saying all these guys are X Factors, but that's not the case. Or maybe it just says that in general on this screen. I don't even know. Interesting. Let me just go to our roster for a second. See if these guys are actually our X Factors. Well, I know Morales is. Okay, yeah, there's definitely, some of these guys are definitely not. Okay, let's sim up to the year 2 draft. Like I said, this series is going to be pretty fast-paced. These episodes are probably going to be way shorter, since we're going to be flying through season simulations for the first bit pretty quickly. But yeah, let's sim up to the draft and find out where we're going to be drafting for year 2. Hopefully we can, or not year 2, year 1 actually. Hopefully we can get a really good prospect in, or really good prospects in general to fill out our roster. And then they'll be in our NHL team next season. So Tampa Bay is going to win the Stanley Cup. Let me just take a look at those awards. Not that it really matters, but not a surprise that Tampa's going to do the three-peat. There is the playoff tree in case any of you were interested. And in award-wise, is all that. It was the Tampa-Edmonton final. Jack Eichel, the newest Vegas Golden Knight. Interesting. Morgan Rielly went to Buffalo. Interesting. Shishkinov the Calder. Christopoulos somehow won the Bill Masterton. So there's our first ever award in this draft of glory, which is kind of a surprise. In AHL doesn't really matter actually, so we won't even take a look at it. Okay, the moment of truth. We sim up to the draft lottery results. Do we have first overall? Because we definitely need it. And no, we do not. We moved from 1 to 2, but that's still good to have second overall in this draft. That prospect is also going to be a huge piece of this team for years to come for sure. Philadelphia moved from 4 to 1 though, which kind of sucks. Okay, so second overall pick. Retired players don't really matter that much as well because we're not going to really keep tabs on the rest of the league in this series as well. But in case you were interested, these are the retirements. And goalie-wise, those are the retirements as well. Okay, did we lose our coach yet or no? Yes, we did. Zachary Strudwick. I don't know if that was our head coach. Don't think so. But we do lose a coach to retirement. Seabrook and Lil are now scouts. Okay. Let's take a look at this draft class, and then that'll be pretty much it for this episode. So we have second overall, which means we could get Brad Lambert, or we could just go with an EA-generated guy who's listed as a gem, which I think might be a better option, to be honest, because I don't really think Brad Lambert's that good out of the draft, if I'm not mistaken. But Raimo Jaskalainen, a good Finnish center that's playing in Frölunda, another two-way forward, so we would make a better defensive team even more with him. So him and Morales, two-way forwards. NHL ready, no similar style. He's got quick draw, so he'll win face-offs for us. He's got tape-to-tape, shutdown, and bouncer. I think he might have to be our pick for next episode, to be honest. Or if we want to, we could go with a defenseman since we don't really have a good defender. Owen Ribeiro is a defensive defenseman. A 1-year ETA, but obviously he'd be playing with us next season. But there is some pretty good options in this first-year draft. I think I might have to go with Jaskalainen, though, to be honest, over Brad Lambert. But I will leave that up to you guys. So let me know who you think would be the better pick. And then let's take a look at goalie prospects for this draft out of curiosity. There might be a medium elite goaltender there in Stefan Soderstrom, but he might take a while to develop. But still, if we want to get a goalie prospect, these are our options because we definitely could use one. Because I don't think our French starter is going to be anything special. Defensive prospect-wise, there's the defenseman. It looks like we should be able to find somebody decent, like maybe Karpatsev in the second round. Maybe Appleby, even though he's a top 6 D-man. He does have an X-Factor potentially. So that is that. Let me take a look at the draft board situation. See what they recommended to us for each of our picks. So they said with second overall, they would recommend us take Ribeiro or Savoy, which is kind of dumb because obviously we're not going to take one of those guys. But we could take Ribeiro, but I think I want to go with that centerman, to be honest, that Jaskalainen dude. And then we have the first pick in each round. So they recommend us Appleby, Minton, or Dumaine. Minton's real. Appleby is not. But he's a guaranteed top 6 defenseman. So that might not be bad for that pick. Third round wise, they say another defenseman and Jace Weir might be interesting. I don't know. Or we could go with a real player, probably in Sam Alfano. Or Oscar Asplund. I think he's real as well. I would rather go with EA generated guys, to be honest, but it doesn't really matter. There's also Josiah Madsen. Has 4-year ETA, so that's kind of intriguing. He is 17. And then, as I was saying, there is that Soderstrom guy if we want to get goaltender prospect in Korchinski. And in 5th round wise, they recommend us maybe Ty Dubnyk, who's another defenseman that might have a 3-year ETA, might be elite, probably not. There's also DeAndre Hoffman. Don't know anything about him. I should probably sign more scouts next offseason though as well, so we could have good scouting. Because obviously we want the best scouts possible. Hornquist might not be too bad. Brady Stonehouse is a real player, I'm pretty sure. And then Connor Hvidson, I'm pretty sure, is a real player too. And finally in the 7th round, there is Marcus Vasiliev, who might be an X-Factor. That guy might be a good pick for a 7th rounder. There's also Curtis Holmes, which I don't think is real. And Todd Malhotra, who might be an okay player. Actually, 3-year ETA for a bottom 6. He might not be a bad 7th rounder either. So there's definitely some options we can go after in terms of the draft to help our team out for year number 3. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Houston Sharpshooters franchise mode here in NHL 22. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys with the draft, and hopefully this team could be a competitive team in 10 seasons at least.